over to you, Lynette.
Okay, so 6 years. So first of all, wow, it's so amazing to see everybody here, and some old friends and like some new friends and just everybody that's here. It's so exciting to see you, and many of you walked the early journey with me as a coach, and yeah, it's just so amazing just to reflect back on the last 6 years. And of course, Janet, who is always mentoring me, and she's pushed me and given me really the belief when I didn't have it, and right in the beginning. And I just reflect back on the last 6 years and how it all came together. And sometimes I think maybe one of the best ways to explain, what are the lessons that I learned is by how I apply them in my daily life, and how often these tools that I learned along the way have really transformed the way I do life, and I have so much more of a bigger life, and my comfort zone has stretched so much bigger than what it was 6 years ago. I had a very small comfort zone. I had a very low threshold for discomfort and doing hard things. And in fact, I would just give myself the pleasure of over drinking all the time, so that I wouldn't have to look at what wasn't working for me in my life. So I think that was lesson number one when I think back to why did it take me so long, and why was I having so many day ones? Why was it always about me and my drinking? It was like that was my identity, Lynette and her over drinking. Oh, is she on a break? One of my friends would say jokingly, so is it world with wine today, or is it world without wine? Because at the time we were world without wine. And for years, I mean, I would say for 20 years, I was either with the AA, taking a break, starting again, stopping, starting. And I realize now, when I look back on those times, that what really was happening was, as long as I focused on fixing my drinking and ditching this demon, the drink, that was what was causing all the bad things in my life. I wasn't needing to look at what actually I needed to change, what I needed to change about me and how I did life, how I needed to grow and evolve. It kept me very stuck, and it kept me in an almost like in a loop where I didn't have to really grow much, because I could always just blame the drinking. So when I ditched the drink, my life was high, and what it really looked like and how I looked like in that life was highlighted to me, and that was almost the most terrifying part. Could I change? Could I truly become a person who loves life, who has a big life, who has purpose, who loves what she's doing, who has a good marriage, has a good relationship with her kids? All of that was in disarray. And I knew I needed to start that. And really, on some level, it always felt easier to drink. But I knew 6 years ago, that morning, 17th of August, 2017, that I couldn't keep doing this. So that's why it was so interesting for me to reflect that my first sober day one was 18th of August, 2017. And on the 18th of August, 2023, I was also getting up in the morning. And it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was excited, and I was on my way to go swim with the whales. I had energy, I had vitality, I was excited. And then I had a moment of, oh, it's so dark. Why am I doing this? I went swimming with the whales the previous week with my son, and I thought, there it comes again. That desire for comfort. And I knew I would need to get slightly uncomfortable, get into the car, drive to this place, which I didn't quite know how to get to, get there, get on a speedboat early in the morning when it was quite cool, and jump in the water, which I still have a little bit of fear about, or saying having the identity that I can't really swim that well. And when we go to swim with the whales, it's in deep, deep waters and quite big swells. And I knew I'd need to overcome that. I'd overcome it the previous week, but I almost felt like I was kind of hyperventilating a little bit by the time I got back in the boat. So immediately my brain was, oh, we don't want to do that again. So I found myself saying, you actually see more when you're sitting on the boat than you do when you get in the water. So, it's actually quite fine just to sit on the boat and watch the whales. And again, I was like, there I go again, choosing and wanting the comfort. And I learned one of the biggest learnings I have, and that has transformed my life, is to understand my primitive brain, my survival brain that doesn't like to be uncomfortable, that wants to conserve energy and get to pleasure. That's the program that it runs. And it's the higher brain that can control, a higher self almost, that can control the motivational triad and not let it, like a toddler, run the show. Which again, in the beginning stages, was what would happen. I would come home and I would want a drink, and my toddler brain that was so used to getting the drink as a reward for getting through this terrible day, now didn't get the reward, so it would have a little tantrum. And it was always, what was it? And I used to say to myself, why is it so hard just to be with the tantrum, with the discomfort of not giving myself the drink? What was so hard about just saying to myself, it's actually going to be more rewarding getting in the water. You're going to get more life force being in the water, more vitality than just sitting back. And how I understood it, even in a deeper level, was that in today's world, we have learned how to give ourselves the immediate pleasure of relief, of gratification, of not having to, of just giving ourselves the pleasure. So that's why we procrastinate. That's why we give up on a goal. It's why I would trick myself into, it's easier to stay on the boat than get in. It's easier just to have the glass of wine now, and tomorrow we can start again. So it's the famous, I'll start again tomorrow. So now when I hear that soundtrack, and that's the other lesson that I learned, is that we all have a running soundtrack in our mind. And what is your soundtrack saying to you? So my soundtrack would say, oh, there you go again, you're such a failure. You've tried so many times. You might as well just have the whole bottle. You might as well just stay on the boat. You have tried before. You knew it was quite scary the last time. You don't, sorry, need to do that to yourself again. That's the soundtrack that I now know, and I hear and I catch it. And I'm like, okay, actually, no, I don't need to listen to you. You're not a program that I'm in and I am powerless against. I can choose. I can say, we don't roll this way anymore. I can catch the little sneaky, it's going to be so hard, it's going to be so uncomfortable, and say, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is a feeling. I'm not going to die. And again, when I think back to my early days when I got coaching, what was so transformative for me was to catch the soundtrack, to learn a process that helped me to become curious and observe the soundtrack in my own mind, and then choose which of the thoughts or the sentences I wanted to reframe, which ones I could just catch and that I didn't have to listen to them. That was life-changing for me. And then learning how to be with my feelings. And I remember my coach saying to me, it's not that you have a drinking problem, Lynette. It's that you have an unfeeling problem. And I was like, wow, I have an unfeeling problem. And it was true. I wanted to numb. I didn't like to feel uncomfortable. Any kind of restlessness or anything that felt uncomfortable, I would want to get out of as quickly as possible. I would be the one that would say, you guys go swim with the whales. I've done it before. I'm just going to be staying at home in my comfortable bed, reading my book, doing my things, because that's also helpful, because that would be the more comfortable thing to do. So, but I knew that in order for me to get up and to step in, I would always need to first feel uncomfortable. And every part of me resists discomfort. So I just have learned that the more I'm able to push myself and to increase my discomfort and my comfort zone, the bigger a comfort zone becomes, the more I can stretch it, the more my capacity for discomfort grows. And the more I'm able to be uncomfortable, like discomfort really is the currency of growth. I now understand it. So whenever I want to choose comfort, I now say to myself, no, you're going to choose the discomfort, because on the other side of that is the growth. On the other side of hard is the ease. Those two sentences became my mantra over the last 6 years and still are. That becomes so much part of me that I always remind myself when I'm wanting to make a choice, what is holding me back? What is going to be the best decision here? It's always about what's going to grow me, what's going to get me out of my comfort. So there I was, on the boat. It was cold, kind of cool in the early hours of the morning. But at the same time, there was the most amazing sunrise. And I was like, what a beautiful reward for having gotten up so early, gotten myself out of bed and getting uncomfortable for a few moments just to get here. I am in paradise on this beautiful ocean, on a boat with beautiful women that I've met here, that I love already. And we are witnessing a sunrise. And 6 years ago, I was with my head out the window, just trying to get over a hangover and just to try and calm my headache down, feeling as sick as anything. And I was so grateful that me on that day made a decision, not this, so that I could today sit and enjoy the sunrise, and be in this beautiful ocean on a Thursday morning. And then we saw the whales, and again, these beautiful, gentle giants in the ocean. What a privilege. And again, I was very tempted to not jump in. And when everybody jumped in the first time, me and my friend Laura, we didn't. And we were both saying to each other, oh, we've done it. We don't need to do it. We see more from the boat. We're not, both of us, not good swimmers, strong swimmers. And then afterwards, I felt that sense of regret again, that, everybody else, the other people were coming out of the water, so excited, so alive. And I'm like, damn, that's what I missed out on. And I said to myself, well, if we stop again and there's another opportunity, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm going to do it. So if you are in a place now where you are so terrified of stopping to drink. I mean, I remember one of my thoughts at the time was, how will I ever feel good again? I was not feeling good most of the time. So for that 20-minute buzz was giving me the thing that I thought was making me feel good in life. Like, no. And now here I was like reflecting back on that, like, wow, similar thing. Still, my brain is always there wanting to choose comfort over discomfort. And now I'm sensing, why didn't I jump in? And then another opportunity did present itself. And I did jump in, because where does the discomfort come from? It's also from putting on the flippers, getting somebody else's flipper. I've got a huge bruise on my thigh where somebody flipped me. It's not falling. It's getting the goggles on. It's all the pressure. And then it's like, okay, now jump. And it's just about not even thinking when that happens, to just do. And in the early days when I used to go and do my biodanza dancing, I would say to myself, when the time comes to go to the dancing, you're not going to want to. So have your gear in the car with you, and when it's 20 past 5 in the afternoon, your alarm clock's going to go up and it's going to say, feel your feelings. You're not going to feel like going. Get over the feelings, put on your gear and go. And so here I was again, 6 years later, doing the same thing. And I got in the water, and it was just amazing to be in the water. I glimpsed the whale. It was true. I saw more from the boat, but just being in the water, in the depths of the water with these creatures, and having overcome again a part of me that was wanting to say, oh, it's too scary, was magical. And again, I would then, when I got back on the boat, the skipper said to me, I thought you said you couldn't swim, but gosh, you moved fast through that water. And I had a sense of that. I did. I felt myself powerfully going through the water. And I'm like, wow, I don't remember ever doing that before. And he said, you were like a mermaid. And I'm like, wow, true. And I had this aliveness again. So that's what we are robbing of ourselves. That was what I was robbing of myself all those years ago when I used to drink, is the aliveness of doing something difficult, something that creates effort, something that stretches me. And the absolute sense of accomplishment and reward comes through the life force that is generated through us. The energy I so wanted, that buzz that I so wanted from the wine. Actually, I have a whole inner pharmacy I can access if I really know how to work with my body and my mind. And I put myself out there in these situations. So it all started with saying, no more wine, no more alcohol to numb it all out. And let me start doing the uncomfortable and getting and stretching my comfort zone, learning to feel, learning how to process my feelings. I realized that feelings were not that scary. They were actually wonderful. And the other big lesson I learned around feelings was that we need to feel all the feels. It's almost like this complementary values. It's like you can't have joy without sadness. You can't have love without hate. You can't have peace without war or anger. We need all of these emotions. We need to know how to feel all of them. Fear and terror with calm. I'll be able to feel them all. And I started really doing deeper dives into the feelings, allowing myself to feel all the feels. Again, one of the best lessons that I learned, or tools that I learned along the way with feelings and being with feelings, is through the breath and doing breath work, learning how our breath is what brings us back into center. So when sometimes the feelings get so overwhelming, learning some breathwork techniques can bring us so beautifully back into ourselves. Again, this inner pharmacy we have, the breath, We have access to the breath, and the breath can, when we learn how to use and be with our breath, it's another part of what gives us what we call vitality and energy and life force. It's our aliveness. Most of us don't breathe deep enough. We do very shallow breathing. So learning how to use the breath in times of discomfort, going to the breath to move me forward. Again, getting into the water, being in the water, just being with the breath. I'm like, oh gosh, if I'm just with the breath, everything calms down. My brain shuts down and I can just focus on the breath. And I know my brain says, all is well, you're safe now. So going to the breath is a big one for me. And for all of this, I guess the biggest lessons are being able to get curious versus judgmental. When we get curious, and curiosity is like what I call our superpower to get us out of the mental and emotional body. Whenever something is happening and we feel dysregulated and we get curious, we start asking, what is going on? What is it that I need? We are able to tune into our deepest wisdom, our heart energy, our wisdom, our intuition. What we tend to do is I tended to do was go into judgment. I shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't feel like this. I shouldn't be not wanting to go into the water. What's wrong with me? There I go again being me. Versus what is it that's wanting me to not get in the water? It's really me wanting just to be comfortable. It's just my brain. And then from my deepest intuition saying, what you do really need is to get in the water. That's going to give you the aliveness that came from my intuition, from my deepest knowing of me. So what I've really learned in these last 6 years is so much more about who I am and what I'm capable of, and that I can love my life, that I can reinvent myself, and that I can break the habit of being myself. Joe Dispenza was another really good book I read along the way. And that I can use the future me as my guide and bring her into my present whenever I want to make a change. So again, the power of goals, the power of setting yourself a goal. It's not even so much about achieving the goal. It's more about who do I need to become to achieve the goal. So if my first goal was I just wanted to love my life. I wanted to not drink anymore. I wanted to be somebody who just preferred not to drink, who could do hard things and could change her career and her life and have a happy marriage. But in order for me to become that version, I needed to say, well, the future me who prefers not to drink and who goes and shows up in her job as her best version, who's in her marriage as her best version, and with her friends, who is she? How does she think? How does she feel? How does she show up? And I would always go to, when I wanted to just do the easy or just like give up on myself, I would say, what would my future me do right now? And I would bring her in. She would say, please, you can do this, do this. Do the hard now so that I can have the ease later. And she's saying that to me all the time now. In fact, my husband has gotten so cottoned onto me and my future me, because I would say things like, oh, I'm going to be doing the dishes. Let's do the dishes tonight. Let's clean up everything, because tomorrow morning our future us are going to love us. They'll be so happy that we did the dishes. So we're doing it for our future us tomorrow morning. So I got into the water for my future me to be able to say, I did it. I swam with the whales. I didn't just say to myself that you can do it another time. I did it. And you can do that too. You can, instead of regretting and keep saying, if you're still struggling, you can bring in your future you into your present and say, I'm going to do the hard now, because my future me wishes that she had the power in her hands that I have now. You have that power now to make the choices, the hard choices sometimes. But whatever you really want in your life is on the other side of hard. And all you need to do is learn how to manage that motivational triad, that primitive brain that wants to keep you safe. Yeah, so I think I've covered probably more than 6 things. But
that was
that's kind of.
I'm going to stop recording.